What's going on, family? What's going on? What's going down? What's shaking? Welcome to Jonathan Soul Sundays. Sit back and relax. You know what I mean? Do the dishes, clean up the house, jog, whatever it is that you do on a Sunday that you can speak about in polite company. Whatever you do on a Sunday, go ahead and do it and let me play in the background. I'm going to bring you some groovy conversations, some interesting thoughts, usually from people who create the world they want to live in. You know, writers, artists, filmmakers, that type of vibration. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Jonathan Soul Sundays. Yeah, family, what's going on? What's going down with you? This is your beloved host, Jonathan Soul. And let's get into some groovy conversation. Let's talk about the Blerds and the Tower of Babel. The Blerds and the Tower of Babel. Now, the hardcore nerds, Blerds, you know, what have you, is gonna peep the Tower of Babel reference. For those who aren't there yet, let me break it down for you. Simply put, the Tower of Babel is a story that came out of an issue of the JLA. I believe it was written, let me go to my Wikipedia. It was written by Mark, I'm going to say Wade, W-A-I-D. And, you know, dope story. Basically, Batman had contingency plans to neutralize other members of the Justice League in the event they went rogue. And, you know, I believe in this story, Ra's al Ghul, you know, that one of the chief guys in Batman's rogue gallery, he got the secrets or whatever and started taking out the Justice League, you know, and coordinated attacks. Now, I didn't read this book. I came across it from a movie I rented on iTunes, Justice League Doom. Same thing. It was penned by our beloved ancestor now, Dwayne McDuffie. He actually wrote I don't know if you call it a screenplay, but he adapted, you know, the storyline, you know, to the Justice League Doom, except in that one, it was Vandal Savage who was able to grab the plans. And so he was able to, you know, with the rest of these, you know, Bane and Cheetah and all these other people, Mirror Master and all of them, they was able to neutralize the Justice League. So I said the Blerds and the Tower of Babel. The Blerds have a superpower. Their superpower is making stuff hot. Okay? They're probably making stuff hot. I think that it was probably the Blerds that might have jumped on the bandwagon with Daredevil. It was probably the Blerds that jumped on the bandwagon with, started the bandwagon with Jessica Jones, especially when they had Luke Cage all up in through there. You know what I'm saying? And I heard he was really all up in there. And, of course, it's the Blerds that are jumping up and down about Luke Cage, you know, the TV show. It's the Blerds that's talking about, you know what I mean, Wakanda with, I think it's Taishi Coates, whoever his brother's name is. You understand? They're hype about that. Now, the thing that's crazy is this kind, just like in the DC and the Marvel universes, they have cycles. You understand, where they have the Crisis of Infinite Earths and they have the Secret Wars and the whole thing. Well, there's a cycle that the white controlled, you know, entertainment industries have in relationship to black people, because black people, for whatever reason in the States, and I think in other parts of the world, they kind of help define pop culture, what's hip, what's happening, what's, you know, trendy. And the way they manage it is they peep your weakness. They hit you in your weak spot. No, it's not kryptonite. No, it's not fire. You know, no, it's not having your heart rate. You know what I mean? It's representation. Your weakness is representation. So what do they do? You understand, in the 60s and the 70s, they had something called black exploitation, where they, you know, they got a couple of black directors, black writers, you know, but in a white controlled setting, and gave up a character that would be entertaining to black people but not offensive to white people. Therefore, the only way you can achieve that balance is to have a stereotypical character. You take an image of the black person that's in the white person's mind, usually a racist white person, and you take that character and then you give that to creative, the black creative, and then they got to try to imbue that stereotypical two-dimensional idea with some kind of positive qualities. And that's where you get the black exploitation. Of course, we know that when Luke Cage came out, at the time he came out in the 70s, most people would agree that was an effort to tap into that black exploitation. People seem to forget that that's where Luke Cage came from. So, what is the antidote? Because this new Luke Cage is the same thing. It's not diversity. It's exploitation. It's exploitation. You can't look at the Luke Cage TV series out of a historical context. We've seen this before. What is the antidote for Blerds? The same thing that's always been an antidote is when you look for representation, look for it amongst your own people who are creating their own content. It's funny. I have deep conversations with creators all the time. And one thing that the comic book creators are telling me is that they get support. They really do. But the bulk of their support is not coming from the Blerds. I'm like, are you serious? I just talked to this one brother. Now, again, these folk are getting support. I'm going to play you a clip from a groovy interview I did with Kelvin Gums, a brother out of Canada. I bought a copy of his Black Sun comics, his first paperback. I got all the digital. Terrific book, kind of groovy, CGI, kind of artistic style. Great story, great concepts, a lot of great concepts, ideas in there. But he's telling me that the Blerds, the very people that he thought would support him, aren't. Which I found that hard to believe until I kept hearing that from different folk. Let's take a listen at this clip from an interview I did with Calvin Gums of BlackSunComics.com. Let's listen.
But I thought the Blerd community would be the ones to support most because they're the ones complaining about, there's not enough black heroes, there's not enough black representation.
Well, they held hostage in Wakanda.
That's what I was just gonna say. All they care about is Black Panther. And Black Panther's cool.
Ain't that about
Black
a bitch?
Panther? I know Black Panther is cool. That's great. But now here's something that's created by black folks for other black folks.
Right.
That is, it's better. You should want that.
Yep.
But they don't. So I find that it's actually someone else is saying this too. Wayne Riley from All Nights. He's out of the UK, but he makes comics too. Really great ones. He's saying the same thing too. You gotta, black creators need to kind of ignore that audience and look for other folks outside. That's where you're going to get most of your support from.
So again, if I just heard that from one person, I like it. But I've heard this from several, not everyone, but I've heard this from several comic creators that the Blerds aren't supporting them. Now, like I said earlier in my statement, I think that the antidote is you guys supporting these black creators, because let's face it, diversity like desegregation is a farce unless it goes both ways. Let's be absolutely clear. Diversity like desegregation is a farce unless it goes both ways. Primarily with desegregation, it was black kids that was bussed out to hostile white school districts where they got stoned and spit upon and the whole bit. I don't remember a lot of stories of white kids being bussed into black communities. So that wasn't really desegregation. Let's be clear. If they take one black character, right? One black character and then give them some shine, but that black character is shallow. That black character is two-dimensional. That black character doesn't have a compelling story or deep rogues gallery. It's just a token. And Blerds are too smart to be satisfied with just tokens. Now, let's go into a little deeper now. I want y'all to be clear. This is not a criticism of the Blerds. I believe you guys are vulnerable to this Tower of Babel attack because you don't know that the creators exist out there. Go on my YouTube channel. Jonathan Soul, all one word. Go over to my SoundCloud. You'll see a ton of content, all different kinds of styles, all different kinds. It's there. I mean, how long are you going to keep seeing the same heroes just recycled? You know, so the first the first Civil War, okay, so this team nobody ever heard of, you know, fights some super villains we never heard of. Boom, they blow up the town, and now they got the Mutant Registration Act, right? So now, boom, 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 boom. So now they got another Civil War. You know, I was in high school when the first Secret Wars came out, and that was a badass cover. I was in high school when was I in high school? I think I was in high school when the first Crisis on Infinite Earths came. Now, how many Crisis of Infinite Earths have there been? Final Crisis, Super Crisis. You know what I mean? How many Secret Wars? How long are y'all gonna keep? It's a bigger world out there than X-Men, Justice League, Avengers. It's a bigger world. Now, let's kind of look at it from a different perspective, or slightly different perspective. This is a clip from the conversation I had with Paul Louis Julie. Again, another independent brother out there who is getting support. But what's happening is, because there's a vacuum created by the Blerds, new people who are new to comics are coming in. People who weren't comic heads are discovering comics for the first time, and they're coming in to this space that's been kind of left vacant by the Blerds. You know, so let's look at it from his perspective. And again, this is not critical. I'm assuming you guys are doing this because you don't know. Let me let you listen to this clip. And Paul is going to kind of give you some of the passion that these guys, these creators, guys and gals, are having for their art. Let's listen.
The thing with the Blerds is that you would think, okay, you're putting something out there specifically for them. You're taking a risk because you're an independent creator. Because like I said, it was impossible 10, 15 years ago. That doesn't mean that's not hard right now, too. It's more possible than 10, 15 years ago to be an independent publisher, but still very hard, though. You need to have support. So how do you create a, let's just call it a black property, even though I hate calling it that, but call it a black property. And how are you gonna make it? How are you gonna be able to survive? Are you gonna be able to at least keep the lights on, you know, and put food on the table? I'm not saying that you're gonna be able to afford a BMW, but at least be able to pay the bills. You know, need to be able to survive, because if you don't pay the bills, you can't make the work. Plain and simple.
Right.
How are you able to do that? Well, the thing is that you're gonna have some white fans. If your quality is good, you're gonna have fans of all races, because quality always transcends everything. However, if you have an exclusively, now again, it's a very general rule though. Mm-hmm. If you have an exclusive product, like something that is pretty much culturally exclusive, sadly in the world we occupy, you're going to turn away some of the people who are not part of that culture, you know, because they're going to feel, well, I can't really identify to that, so I'm not going to really bother with that, you know. So what's left? Well, you're left to your own people. So like, well, that would be fine if my own people could support me, though.
Right.
And then your own people are treating you the same way that everyone else is treating you. They're like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to get on that. Do you realize that by you turning your back on that person, if they have a good product, again, that's a key, though. We're not talking about people that don't have bad. We're talking about if they have a good product. That means they've done their part.
Right.
If you can't do your part and support them, then that means that no one's going to support them, and they're going to die. All right. Now that is such a hard thing to deal with when you put all this work, you've taken the risk, you've made the decision. You know what? I'm not going to go work for DreamWorks. I'm not going to go work for Marvel. I'm not going to go work for DC. I'm going to go ahead and make something for my own people. And you know what? I'm going to believe in them. I'm going to trust in them that they're going to help me out. Doesn't mean they're going to be shelling out $1,000 every time. They're just going to be supporting you the same way they would support Marvel or DC.
All right. As promised, let me give y'all some comics. Now, I have digital comics. I have printed. My usual rule is I buy the digital first, and if it's really groovy, then I buy the print. So I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to show you guys some of my my printed stuff here. All right. So the first one is something that I treasure, and I've bought I know I at least bought twice. This is Concrete Park. Now, if you never heard of Concrete Park, it's on Dark Horse. And what makes it special is it's written and, drawn and so forth by Tony Puryear and Eric Alexander. Now, Tony per year. He's like he has a terrific background. I think he was a chef at one point. He was a graphic designer at another point. He became a screenwriter. And he wrote the script for the movie Eraser with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Vanessa Williams. You guys may have heard that. Some other stuff he's done, but I know him for that. And he's been doing drawing. So anyway, long story short, he decided to get into making graphic novels. This is a hardcover. How often do you see comics in hardcover that aren't trades? You follow me? It's very, very nicely bound in the whole bit. And long story short, it's about a prison planet. Okay, prison planet. So this brother trying to take care of his little sister gets in a scuffle with some people. And next thing you know, pow, pow, pow. I don't want to give everything away. But he ends up catching a charge. And it's a charge. I don't know how many charges he had before, but he wakes up on what he thinks is a bus, but it's actually a spaceship. And he ends up crash landing on a prison planet. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but, issue 1 of Concrete Park is called You Send Me. All right. And all I can say is you got to have this in your collection. Now, and the reason why I'm trying to hip you Blerds to it is because I don't even think at the time of this recording, I don't even think you can get issue 1 anymore. It's like out of print. Now, I think I bought it twice. I might have bought it 3 times, but I know I bought it twice. I got 2 number 2s and 1 number 1. I got to get the other number 1. And Tony and Erica signed it for me. You know what I mean? Tony and Erica. That's what I love about small operations. You know what I mean? It ain't cost me $1 million to get it done either. I actually asked him, hey man, do a little special message for bro. I told him what to say. Sure, he shut up, did it. A little motivational thing, and it's funny because I just say that I asked them to put in there something about me finishing my novel. And, sure enough, I did. Now, I'm not saying this because of the note. I'm just saying that's the kind of relationship. That's the kind of vibration you can have when you go with black artists, indie artists. It's just a different kind of feeling. So anyway, long story short, so SU1, he introduces all the characters. Everybody got a story. And, Tony takes time to develop each person. Everybody gets a few pages to where you start to see who they are a little bit. You start to see the domain that they inhabit. And then you look at the bleeding edges because all of these people kind of impact on all the other people. And so it's just really, you got some, of course, all the humans that's sent to this planet are alien, right, to the planet. And, there's escapes that happen, and then there's like a city, it's all kinds of layers to it. And then, of course, there are natives to the planet, which we would consider alien. And they blend, and some of them blend in with the population. It's just, so how would describe it? See, I never saw gangs in New York, right? But I assume it's something like that. I did see New Jack City. So it has some of that flavor. And then I don't know, just mixing space stuff in there. The thing that's incredible about this book, it's not just that Tony wrote a comic. It's not just that Tony mapped out the planet. I mean, if you're going to do a good book, of course, he mapped out each little territory. He even created a language, right? Their own little kind of slang. And it's a mix of different Earth languages, which is really groovy. I mean, if you go to their website, concretepark.com, the last time I was there, they had a goddamn soundtrack. You know what I mean? It's layers, t-shirts and merchandise, but it's just layers to it. It's layers. I mean, this could easy be a movie. Easy. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2, RESPECT, respect. It's a little bit thicker. And we go into more or less of the story of the brother who ended up getting sent to this planet, who crash landed. And then we go deeper into the other boroughs, I guess you would call them. And he kind of starts to meet some of the other power players. in the city. And I don't want to give everything away, but he ends up meeting a familiar face. And then there's something else happening. There seems to be some threat that kind of is forcing everybody to come together. So it's I can't wait for number 3 to come out. As a matter of fact, I got to hit Tony up after I post this. Yo, what's up with number 3? Can we get some panels? What's going on? So these are the kind of things you're missing if you just buy DC and Marvel. Now, I know these guys on Dark Horse and everything like that. I'm not familiar with Dark Horse that much, but they made a good decision, publishing these people. All right, then moving right along. The next issue I want to talk about is Day Black. This is something else you're missing. I'm not going to say you're never going to see this on the big two, but let's just say this. This is the most unique take on a vampire that I've seen since True Blood, season 1. Once you got into season 2 and it started getting weird, I had to stop fucking with it. But season 1, Interview with a Vampire, that was cool, but that was more or less, that wasn't too far afield of what we kind of saw in the past, But Day Black, so this brother, give you a quick synopsis. He was bitten when he was an enslaved African in America, right? He was bitten on the neck by a vampire while he was out in the field. For whatever reason, he preferred working at night, and the master let him do it, right? So he worked at night and everything, and picking cotton by himself or whatever. Next thing you know, he gets bit by a vampire, and so he's lived hundreds of years, had different lives or whatever, and now he's settled down in this town down south called Day Black. It's called Day Black because there was a factory there that put a lot of smoke and soot up in the sky, and basically it kind of like permanently blocked out the sun. So it's like Rochester, New York. It's like upstate New York. You know what I mean? When I was in school in Rochester, they used to say you ain't know if it was day or night in Rochester. It's because it was always kind of overcast. Like most of the year, it was kind of overcast. So, like 6 o'clock in the morning looked like 6 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? So that's Day Black. So he makes his living as a tattoo artist. And he has a very unique way. He has a very unique way of getting his blood, which I'm not going to tell you because I want you to get the book. Now, again, you can get the printed, which is I'm showing you now. But I got all the digital first, and then I got the print. And let me tell you something. I got issue number 1, and that's hard to get now, man. Hard to get. I bought it for $20 when it first came out. Now I think it's 40, almost $50 on Amazon. So the pre-order for number 2 is on Amazon right now, so I suggest you get it. The art is crazy groovy. The story is very African, meaning that the most important thing is just the interaction between, people, the relationships, the energy that flows. It's not bang, zap, pow, everything is solved with a super punch. Although there is some fighting in here, there is some action and stuff, but it's more interesting to hear the stories that this guy. Now, the brother who put this together is Keith Cross, who's actually a tattoo artist. He's also a fine artist. He's also a teacher, And so when I interviewed him, and you can see my interview with him on this YouTube channel, I think it might still be on SoundCloud. I take stuff off of SoundCloud sometime because I could use up all the time on it, and I don't want to pay for more, so I just put everything up on YouTube. But he told me some very interesting stuff, and so some of the crazy people that he meets kind of I think ends up in some of this work. So the work is really groovy. You see the challenges that he has as a vampire. It's not just the fact that he has to find a good clean source of blood, because apparently blood-borne diseases affect vampires too. So he has to find a good source of blood. He also is impacted by narcolepsy, where he just falls asleep. And I'm not sure, but I think it's a cardinal sin if you're a tattoo artist to fall asleep while you're tattooing somebody. So anyway, he has to deal with that. When he falls asleep, he has these crazy dreams. And so that's where Keith Cross's art shines. You can tell this brother is a straight up fine artist, and you can find his work at keithcross.com. All right, then. So that's Day Black. You definitely got to get your hands on a copy. You can get the digital at peepgamecomics.com. You can get the prints at keithcross.com, and I believe on amazon.com. All right. Moving right along. This joint, I got to take it out the plastic for a second. Hold on for a second. This is the Power Knights, issue number 2. I got to get issue number 1 in print. By Keithan Jones, written and created by Keithan Jones. So if you go over to kid-comics.com, this brother built a online comic shop where he publishes his books and other people's books. The art is terrific, as you can tell as we flipping through, all the kind of, groovy, human form and lightning and energy strikes and all that kind of stuff that you would expect from the big two. But this is his own creation. So long story short, it's this group of, you could say, superpowered special forces, right? They worked for this king out in space someplace. And for some reason, these guys got stranded or exiled or stationed here on Earth, and they're trying to live as humans on the down low. When I say down low, I mean the 90s definition of down low. And so, so they're trying to, but, there's always one that causes trouble. So there's one guy that is trying to, with these humans, we can overpower, we might as well rule over them. So one of their number, instead of just playing it low key, he's trying to, what are we going to do tomorrow, Pinky? The same thing we do every night. We're going to take over So it's that kind of vibration. So, as you can see, the art is badass. And everything like that. So definitely check this out. Not only does he have the Power Knights over there, he has a comic that I can't wait for it to come out called Purge. Oh man, you got to go over to kid-comics.com. I've been waiting for Purge for a minute. It's one of those things where you give a little bit of bread up for the crowd fund, and you just want it to succeed. So the art is better. I mean, unless you're talking about like a Alex, is it Alex Cross? Unless you're talking about like a Alex Ross painterly kind of thing, or you're talking about the brother that does Valmar. I mean, the art that's coming out on Purge is just super duper beautiful comic art. So I can't wait for that to come out. All right, then. So you go over to kid-comics.com and you can get digital and print. They have the Stronger over there. They have Power Knights. They have something called Vegas Baby. Vegas Baby's badass. I bought that comic too. And it's badass. You just got to check it out. Again, stories you're not going to find on the big two. And let me give it to you this way. If you do find any black characters over there, they are 2-dimensional, and these guys are 3-dimensional. Because you don't have an editor at these small companies holding you back because they're intimidated about this great idea you got. Or they're concerned that all the readership may bitch because it's a different readership. But like I told you guys earlier in the game, what's happening is what's happening is new cats are coming to the comic book. New readers, new customers are coming, and they're discovering these comics for the first time. So what that means is there's a whole group of people out there who do have a predilection to comics, but they don't like what DC and Marvel is putting out. And so when they see this stuff, they're like, wow, this is what I've been looking for. And so I just don't want you Blerds to miss out. I don't want y'all to miss out. All right, the next one. I've mentioned this before when I did my Halloween countdown. This is Summons. Okay, I got the print. 1 and 2. High school girl. She's like, she's fighting these monsters, these demonic creatures or whatever. And she has some tremendous abilities. She's familiar with some magical type stuff. When she gets into trouble, there's this guy named the Magus that helps her out. And he's kind of helping her find her destiny. kind of thing. In the meantime, she deals with the regular high school stuff. It almost reminds me of kind of Peter Parker back in the day. You know what I mean? When I say back in the day, probably when we was infants, when Stan Lee and them used to kind of make them, when you had the regular high school problems with the bullying, with the Flash Thompsons and all that kind of stuff. And then, he was always broke or this, that, and the other. I mean, they don't mention money in this, but, she has some challenges socially. And so she has to deal with these monsters, and then she goes to school and she has to deal with more bullshit. So this teenager has all this stuff on her. And so that makes the character, relatable. I mean, it's definitely something that I would give to teenagers and so forth. But the art is beautiful and the story is interesting enough that, I bought digital and print. You know what I mean? And this is something I want in my collection. I don't want to, go 10 years from now and stuff and not have these books in my collection. Because by the time that the masses discover this, it's going to be, it's going to be all over. You know what I mean? Just think of these books as like Miles and Dizzy. You guys know the story about Miles and Charlie Parker, right? Miles, he was a tremendous trumpet player in school, and he was able to, I don't know if he got a scholarship or whatever, but he went to Juilliard, right? I think he went from St. Louis or wherever he was in the Midwest or whatever. And, he went up to New York City, and, all Miles wanted to do was find Bird and Dizzy. And for y'all who don't know, Bird is what they used to call Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker is a tremendous trumpeter, and he tremendous. He would just go these strange places, and how the hell with it. And so so he would go. And so what he would do is sometimes he would skip class. Sometimes he would immediately after class he would go into the city just to look for Dizzy and Bird. Everybody know Dizzy is Dizzy Gillespie. And so long story short, eventually he found them, and the music that they was playing downtown, right? And it got discovered, and then, so I feel like these guys are like the beginnings of a movement. You know what I mean? These guys are the beginning of a trend. So cop this now before they get discovered. You follow me? All right, then. So, let's see. Is this the last one I'm talking about? I think this is the last one. Yeah. On book 2 of Summons, right? Book 2 of Summons, it's a detective and a police officer by the name of, let's see here. All right, I got to pause this. Okay, so by the name of Officer Farrell. And let's see if we can find his first name. So, so Officer Farrell. And so he kind of wakes up unconscious in the woods, laying up against this mangled deer. Looks like somebody attacked the deer and just kind of ripped it apart. And he got blood all over and his clothes are ripped. And he gets found by some kids. Oh, my God, let's run away. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. And so he wakes up and doesn't feel very well. And John Farrell is his name. And so, so he's trying to figure out, okay, what's going on? I got blood all over me. My clothes are ripped. This deer's been ripped apart. And this mysterious dude kind of comes out the woods and says, yo, baby, you know what I mean? Once you're ready to look at your destiny, you know what I mean? Holler at a brother. And he's like, well, what are you talking about, man? You can't leave. And poof, so the guy disappears. So then I guess he runs home, take a shower and get clothes on, because next thing you know, he appears at work. You know what I mean? Where his wife is yelling at him because he hasn't checked in. He was gone all night. And then he has to talk to the boss, this, that, and the third. And interspersed in between that story, we get more about the teenager who, looks like she's a part of some greater plot that goes on with these monsters and demons that she's fighting. So that's basically Summons. It's kind of like if I had to, and Summons, by the way, I got from indiecomics.us. So I heard about it I saw it somewhere on Twitter, and then I found it on Comixology, and then I looked at Indie, so Indie with a Y, indieplanet.us. And so it's good quality prints too. Good quality prints. You know, it's funny. They didn't, just good quality prints. Yeah. It doesn't come in plastic or anything. It's cardboard or whatever, but everything is cool. I do have to start getting some plastic bags. Anyway, so the last book I'm going to talk about is a classic, of course. It's the graphic novel from the creators of Brother Man. If you guys know, Brother Man, in my opinion, to black comics is what Superman is to white comics. You know what I mean? That's, and I see it that way. It's not it's white comics. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. Let's just call it like it is. It's white comics. That's why you got to bang on the doors to get black and brown characters. Because it's white comics for white boys primarily. And then they started, once they saw that the girls would spend some money, then they started writing content for them. But so to me, this is our Superman. And Superman is not that he's the most powerful. He's not. But he's kind of like a flagship character, a character that everybody knows. So anybody who knows anything about black comics knows Brother Man. And so Daoud Onyebuile, Guy Sims, and Brian McGee, the colorist. Sims is Daoud's brother, does the story. And so the thing that's so beautiful about this, these three guys are like a perfect storm. Back in the day when it was black and white comic, the art was over the top. It was a cross between, you remember that painting in the Good Times sitcom, remember, where people was dancing, the form was kind of elongated and stuff. It's like a cross between that and the art you used to see in Mad Magazine. It kind of has that flavor. And so the art is over the top and the writing is over the top too. And then when you add McGee to the mix, the color is over the top. So it's just beautiful. So anyway, so it's like a 100-page graphic novel they put out, large format. It kind of gives another origin story of Brother Man. And it's full color. There's a few pages that are black and white. But you got to have this in your collection. Especially if you got some of the 90s books. I have some original 90s books. Some of them signed. Well, one of them is signed. So, so it's something that you got to have. So I just wanted to spend a little time to show you Blerds what y'all are missing. Now, again, when I hear folks saying the Blerds aren't supporting us the way we expected, I would venture to say that maybe they're not being supported en masse the way that they see Black Panther, with Ta-Nehisi Coates as being supported, or en masse, they're not seeing. So just kind of keep that in your mind. The Black Panther thing is going to go away, right? After they figure out it's peaked, okay, it's not making the sales anymore, they're going to fade it. They don't have a commitment to developing that character, okay? So, but these guys, they eat and sleep this. And so you have a responsibility to support the people in your community by supporting this beautiful artwork. This is stuff that you can give your kids. This is stuff that you can read. This is the kind of stuff. I mean, there's one conversation I had with one artist. I think it was Paul Louis Julie, another person who's going to be coming out with print soon. And he said that he pulled like Fantastic Four off his father's bookshelf. And I thought that was kind of groovy, right? I think it was Fantastic Four. My kid pulled Brother Man off my bookshelf. How badass is that? You know what I mean? How badass is that? So anyway, family, I don't want to take up all your time. I just wanted to kind of, introduce you to some stuff that you guys just didn't know about. Because if you knew, you'd be supported. So you guys are all mature, righteous people, and I know you will self-correct. Now that was righteous. That was righteous. Hey, family, hope y'all enjoyed that episode of Jonathan Soul Sundays. You can find me here next Sunday. If you're on YouTube, just hit that little notification thing, hit subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Well, I feel it's weird saying that. Hit the subscribe button. God damn it. And you'll be notified when I drop another one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You can follow me on Twitter, JOHNATHAN, SOUL on Twitter, on Tumblr, on SoundCloud. And if I made you smile, if I made you think, if I introduce you to some stuff you didn't know, show your appreciation by going over to Amazon.com and picking up my ebook, my sci-fi novel, Malcolm Mars. Malcolm like the prophet, Mars like the planet. 3 brothers take their families to Mars to escape the violence and racism of Earth. They build a new civilization over there. They get there in a homemade starship. And then, they're not really all that comfortable just sitting on their laurels. And so they try to use social media and different things to spark revolution back here on Earth. So definitely check it out. It's something you'll enjoy. 200 pages and change. $3 over on Amazon. It's in the Kindle format. So you really enjoy it. I love you guys. Hope all your dreams come true. Again, follow me on social media, JOHNATHANSEUL on Twitter. Please support the people that I mentioned, and you'll be glad you did. We always think about, wow, won't somebody do something? No, we're supposed to do something. All right, family. Peace and love. Talk to you later. Deuces.